Hey guys, it's Dragonis here, and today we're going to talk about the new Heroes banner that came out. Now, none of the heroes are new, but they all did get an update with a Weapon Refinery update that happened a couple weeks ago. And in this specific instance, these four characters all gained totally new weapons, as opposed to, say, Lynn, who got an upgrade to her existing weapon. So they're all PRFs, that you can only use them on these guys, and we're going to talk about each of them today on this new banner. So first off, I've got Raven, and Raven has got some pretty good stats on him. He's got a really high amount of attack, decent speed, decent defense. His HP is also pretty okay. The only thing he's kind of lacking is his resistance, and if you get a minus resistance Raven, it drops pretty significantly. It's mid 22 and it goes down to 19 if you have the minus resistance. But he's pretty good, pretty average power. And the only reason why he wasn't so high on the tier list beforehand was because greens weren't really used that much, especially infantry greens like him. So a lot of people used Deirdre and Julia, and also things like Nino and Cecilia. But because of this update, he's gotten a pretty significant boost to himself. So he has on his base kit, he's got his Brave Axe Plus, and if you pulled him 5-star randomly, that Brave Axe will make a big difference on some characters, like if you've got Winter Crom and a few others that might appreciate a Brave Axe with their high attack, so that way they can deal a lot of damage in those 2 hits, typically. Aside from that, he comes with Soul as one of his specials, which isn't super great, but there are some niche uses for it. His Defiant Speed isn't super good, really, but the Threat and Defense is similar to the Ploy skills, except that instead of doing it in the cardinal directions and doing a resistance check, it's just if you're in 2 spaces around the enemy. So it has uses. Some people like the threatened skills better than ploy skills, and it just depends on what you're running, because if you want to use ploys, you do have to use high resistance characters, and these threatened abilities let you go around that at the cost of having to position your characters very specifically. Him himself as a unit has the Brave Axe. It's really good to pass on, and the Threat and Defense if you want to pass those things on. So in total, he's got pretty good offensive stats. His Basilicos, which gives him life and death 3 essentially, massively increases his damage potential while decreasing his attack and defense, and actually combos really well with Fury, and not another life and death, because that would drop his defenses way too low. But with Fury, it gives him just enough bulk to survive a hit and enough speed and attack to run like desperation builds and stuff like that. So Basilicos really increases his attack power. On the flip side though, he does have low defenses with his Basilicos, and his Basilicos is really the reason why you want to use him. So he becomes a lot more of a glass cannon, and you have to pay attention to that if you do decide to use him. And you have to also pay attention to the skills that you give him, so that way he synergizes well with his Basilicos. But if you do use him as your infantry green, you probably won't be disappointed. Next on my list, I've got Caeda, or I believe she's also pronounced Sheeta, but Caeda is what stands out to me the most. As a unit, she's a red flyer, and she compares a lot to other red flyers that we've got that have been either seasonal or 5-star limited, like the New Year's, Camilla and Alencia. Compared to them, she has a heck of a lot more resistance and a lot of speed, but she trades a lot of her attack for that to be useful. So on her own, she really isn't something that is useful without the wing sword that she comes with, and I'll talk about that later. As far as her own skills that she has, she's got Armor Slayer, which if you're in a certain place in Arena probably between 19 and 20, maybe even 18, you hit an area where there are a lot of armors, and I've been seeing more and more of people running anti-armor weapons up there because of just the sheer amount of armors you see. When you get down lower, there isn't as many because it's usually a lot of horses and stuff like that, but up there, definitely a lot of armors. And like I said, I've seen quite a few either anti-armor defense teams or offense teams that run anti-armor weapons. So while she herself isn't super great using the armor slayer because she doesn't have that much attack, it does let her check armors if you want to do that. You can also pass it on to anybody else that you need to for that usage. It is niche, but it is a good niche if you need that to be a thing. Her other skills that she has is Darting Blow, and unfortunately Darting Blow is only available for her at 5 stars, so there are other places to get that, but at 4 stars she does have Fortify Flyers. So if you pulled her randomly as a 4 star, the Fortify Flyers is definitely important if you run, say, like a Blade Tome Flyer Mage. So the likes of Halloween Nowie, Spring Camilla, and Summer Corin all synergize really well with Fortify Flyers, and also, of course, Hone Flyers, but they both work really well. So she has those going for her, but you don't necessarily need to pull her as a 5 star to do that. But her own weapon that she got recently is her new Wing Sword that is effective against armored and cavalry foes, and mimics her Wing Spear from the game she's from. With that, she becomes a lot more versatile, still niche in her own right, because yes, she's still only effective against, in this case, armored and cavalry, but she has a wider range of what she can affect, and she is definitely a lot more powerful when she has that. And when you upgrade the Wing Spear and the weapon refinery, it gets Flashing Blade, which is similar to Heavy Blade in that if you have higher speed than your opponent, you gain a special cooldown +1 per attack, which it really accelerates how powerful she can be. So although she sits on low attack with her mediocre attack and decent defenses and high speed, the Flashing Blade really gives her the ability to just punch things in the face. So she becomes like a surgical tool in that she gets in, takes out exactly what you need, and then gets back out, typically with drag back or hit and run. She is very good at that role, and for that reason I think she's actually a pretty darn good unit. So if you look at her objectively, she fits really well in flyer teams because of her Wing Sword. It allows her to, like I said, just get in, get out, and kill what she needs to kill. And even if she is used in other parts of combat, typically Flashing Blade will give her the ability to take on whatever she's in a fight by adding extra damage from her special that she's able to charge more quickly. She compares very directly to, like I said, say Alencia, I'll say, and this comparison, if you did a lot to try and pull a lot of Alencias, then it doesn't really matter to you how Caeda works, except for her niche applications. But she is more available. You know, you can pull her as a 5 star here, which will save you some investment, and you can work on her now. But she's also pullable as a 4 star, and as a 4 and 5 star character, you've seen plenty of them be really good when you can merge them up really easily. Take like Nowie, for instance, who is known as to be one of the strongest dragons in the game, is a 4 and 5 star, and she's easily merged because she can be pulled at 4 star, which is one of Caeda's main selling points over other Red Sword Flyers, if you want to use them in arena setting. So the only bad thing is if you don't care about her niche applications and you don't care about using her in a flyer team, she just doesn't really offer that much. Her skills aren't super great. You can get Darting Blow from Florina, And 4/5 flyers doesn't matter to you if you don't use a flyer team. She could provide her wing sword for you outside of a flyer team if you needed it, but typically there are other characters that perform either the same or better roles than her when you're not using her in that instance. So she does have her pros in that she can be merged and she is powerful, but she as her own unit isn't super strong. Next, I've got Felicia, everyone's favorite little maid. Before the weapon refinery, she didn't stand out to be anything special. She has really high resistance and pretty high speed at the cost of low attack and being a dagger, which before now and actually and up until recently just wasn't good. Daggers all focus on debuffing, and why debuff whenever you can use, say, Reinhardt to kill? But she did get some significant upgrades in the weapon refinery. We'll talk about those in a second. Her base kit, though, has the silver dagger, which is not impressive. She has Chilling Wind and Glacies, and she gets that at 4-star, which is nice. And Glacies is one of those. It's basically like Ignis for resistance. So in the applications of it, it deals massive damage. You just gotta know where you gotta put it. So she is good for in that instance that you need Glacies. Her other skills are Resistance +3 and Breath of Life 3. And Resistance +3 has super niche uses. If you need it, then that's there. But Breath of Life does have some better applications depending on where you need it, where you're using it on. So that could be useful as well, but she, on her own, she doesn't really bring that much to the table, except for her Felicia's plate. Felicia's plate is honestly pretty insane. It has the upgraded dagger effect in that it decreases defense and resistance on the target that you hit and all the foes around them within 2 spaces, and then it also calculates the lower between the foe's defense or resistance, similar to the way dragons do, except on everybody. And then after you upgrade it, she also gets cooldown +1 if the foe is using magic. So just overall, she just craps on mages, just 100% totally craps on mages, and then fighting against anybody else, she'll probably hit them a whole lot harder than they expect her to because she can hit the resistance instead of defense. So overall, she got a really big buff with her Felicia's plate. Looking at her objectively, her own abilities are not super great, but if you wanted to mess around with the Felicia's plate and you don't want to spend all the feathers trying to get her, it might be worth trying to get a little bit of Felicia so that way you can work on her, because she's, with the new Felicia's plate, she's a lot more flexible. She deals a lot of damage with even her own Glacies, but also Iceberg if you want something a little faster. She just works really well, really well. And the biggest downside to her is that if you wanted to use her for anything other than Felicia's plate's usage, she just kind of falls short, because all she can really do is tank magic hits and attack back with very little damage until you hit your special. So overall, good unit, very good unit if you use her Felicia's plate. Last person we're going to talk about today is going to be Hinoka. Now, everybody knows Hinoka is the only character on this list that is only pullable at 5-star, and she's actually not that easy to pull. She's gotten a few banners every now and then, but sometimes she can evade you. And why is that important? It's important because she's one of the few people that has home flyers. So far, home flyers has been given to her. It's been given to New Year's Camilla and Halloween Nowi. So overall, not that rare of a skill, but kind of rare. And especially whenever you need it, if you want to use these Blade Tome flyers. So she does serve her purpose that way. On her base kit, she does have her Brave Lance, which is good to fodder off to anybody who needs that, and there are plenty of people that do. She's got Blazing Wind special, which is kind of rare, but overall nothing too important to look at. She comes with Defiant Defense as well as Home Flyers, and Defiant Defense is obviously not something you really want to care about, but Home Flyers is. So if you wanted to pull her for some extra Home Flyers, it's definitely something you should look at, because with her own base kit, without using her new weapon, her Hinoka Spear, she isn't too impressive. Cordelia can outpace her using a Fire Sweep Lance or the Brave Lance, so it's very easy to just pull her for her Home Flyers and give it to somebody else. Now to get down to her Hinoka Spear. So Hinoka Spear is basically like a bond attack speed as long as she's near infantry or flying, or it has to be within 2 spaces, so it's a little bit better than that. And then in addition to that, she also gains a semi-guidance ability, in that she gains the infantry and flying allies within 2 spaces can move adjacent to her. So not quite guidance, because it doesn't work on armors, but definitely a strong ability. It increases her team's mobility, especially if you don't have a dancer. They can just move around her. She's able to ferry people everywhere because they just have to be near her so that they can move adjacent to her. And her own attack increase synergizes really well with her own weapon. So it's a very good skill, but kind of weird in application, because yeah, it works. It works. But in a flyer team, there are plenty of other characters that work without using her. So you could use her for her Home Flyers and for her new Hinoka Spear, so that way you can move people around everywhere. But in that blue spot, you've got like Cordelia, who hits like a monster, has Gale Force on her base kit, and is just really mobile and moves around everywhere and just destroys a lot of stuff. You've got Est, who has her really high resistance, is able to deploy everything and their mother, so that way everything can do some extra damage while also providing damage on her own. And you've got basically every blue that can run a Fire Sweep Lance. she's good. She's definitely good. But that blue spot in a flyer team is just very, very heavily contested. But where she does shine on her own with the Hinoka Spear, in my opinion, would be in a mixed movement team featuring Saneki. Saneki and Hinoka are like butter on toast. They fit together so well, because Saneki's weapon refinement upgrade increases her power as long as she's around a flying ally, and who is Hinoka, a flying ally, who also gains power if she's near infantry. The two just synergize just so well together. And you've even got the guidance ability that lets Saneki move near Hinoka, so that way the two are basically inseparable. And they just, together as a team, do a lot of damage to everything. If you're looking at a tactics team like that, then you probably also need another movement type, probably horse or armors. You've got Siegbert, who comes with his own attack tactic and probably fits in really well with them. And Shiro, I believe, also has defense tactic, and probably more tactics on the way. And I feel like if you wanted Hinoka, that would be what you use her for, is to use her in a mixed movement team. So overall, she's got her Home Flyers, which is great to give to people, and if you don't need to give people, she can work on the flyer team with her Home Flyers. Aside from that, she's also got her Brave Lance to give away, and then if you want to use her on her own, she synergizes really well with her Hinoka Spear and Saneki. But the downsides is that she's not super mergeable, unlike every other character on here. If you pull for her, you basically only want her for her, and you're probably not looking at getting much more of her if you pull one, unless you spend a lot of money. And then without using the Hinoka spear usage, she doesn't really shine as well as other blue allies do. But she does have her worth, and that's why I think she might be worth going for. So looking at everybody in total with all of their pros and cons stacked against each other, I believe the lowest person that's priority to get on this list is probably Hinoka. Now, to keep in mind that if you specifically need Hinoka, like you need her for whatever she's got, then she's probably your number one. And also, this is all opinion, so don't take it too hard if I don't like the character you like. But Hinoka, as her own character, without looking at anything else, doesn't bring that much to the table unless you have very specific instances that you need her. And that's all I've got to say about that. She really works well on tactics teams. But if you don't need anything like that, then she's not going to provide you with much. You'll probably bench her if you pull her. The next person that I would pull above her is probably Raven, because he does massive damage with his Basilicos, and you can run around and just smack people in the face. Personally, for me, I like more defensive teams than I do offensive teams. If you like player-face teams, he's probably going to be your number one as well, because he just runs around, hits people, and does all his damage. And you can, if you know how to play around that, then that's really good. He is glass cannony if you do build him that way, and that is something to watch out for. But he does make a strong unit. Above him, I'd probably put Felicia. Felicia is one of those units that she didn't look that impressive before, other than being a mage check, but now she just does so much damage to everything. Everything that has, especially stuff that's specialized in something, she does a lot damage to. And she solidifies her role as a mage killer even more than she did before, and it's just a really big upgrade to what she was before to what she is now. And if that excites you and you want to do a lot of damage, then definitely go for Felicia. But if you want to pull somebody that has a lot of overall worth, I'd say go for Caeda. Because Caeda has her wing sword that increases her versatility as a unit. She can be used in flyer teams and without flyer teams, and being pulled as a 4 and 5 star allows her to get a lot of merges without having to pull as much as you would for, say, Hinoka. Overall, I think she's a really good unit. Now, in total, this banner, I would say I really wouldn't pull that much on. Unless you really want a 5-star one of these characters so that way you can work on, or Hinoka in particular, if you really need a Hinoka, then I would roll for it, but I'd probably save your orbs on something more important than these guys, because you'll probably pull many Felicia in your lifetime. Raven you might get every now and then. Caeda is probably a little more rare than them, but you'll definitely see them without having to pull them as a 5-star. So if you guys like this video, please give it a like, and if you want to see more content from me, I would appreciate subscriptions or any comments if you guys have anything to talk about. And I'll see you guys next time.